and the local stories you care about. WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice program here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. And this morning we are on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. So I encourage you to go to our page and make sure you like it, and you can watch the 30-minute Community Voice program this morning. You can meet our guests, both with the Aggressive Criminal Enforcement Unit. I believe that's Carroll County as a whole, right?
It is.
Okay. And but they are both with the Carrollton Police Department as well. Sitting to my left, my pal and chum, Chad Taylor. Sitting to my right, Sergeant Chad Taylor. Sitting to my right is Amanda Moore, Corporal Amanda Moore. She's SRO, and she's also with the ACE unit. Recently received a pretty impressive award, and we're going to talk about that despite her not wanting us to later on in the program. So, but first of all, guys, good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for coming out. This morning we're going to focus on gang enforcement. We did have a program about a year ago. I think that might have been the last time we talked about it, and I think a lot of people are still surprised, and other people are like, well, of course we've got gangs here locally, but we do have enough to where it's a concern, to where it's a problem, and you guys had to have a group where you're working on enforcing that. Let's start off with what's the definition of a gang? I mean, you just see somebody walking down the street that makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean they're a gang member. What do we define as a gang locally?
Well, it's also not illegal to be in a gang. A gang, by nature, is three or more people associated, in fact, formal or informal, by the same signs, symbols, colors, or just other identifiers. But it's a criminal street gang. It's the criminal activity that goes along with the gang that makes it illegal and draws our attention.
What are typically the kind of crimes that do go along with the gangs here locally?
Well, people locally, one thing you can associate with it is the old RICO crimes, like you hear back in the mob movies, the murder, rape, rob. Here we have anything from drugs to trafficking to lately you hear more of human trafficking. You'll see that on a national level as well. But locally, I would say your violent crimes, your shootings, your drugs, your drug trade, they control a lot of that in the city.
Chad Taylor, Amanda Moore, our guests on this morning's Community Voice program. How long ago did we see Carrollton Police really start to pay attention to gang issues locally?
I would say that they kind of started to bubble up around 2012 for us specifically. And in 2014 is when we really started to dive in. Myself and now Captain J.J. Cole. The city afforded us the opportunity to really start to attend classes, to get up to understand how to prosecute gangs, identify gangs, and really move forward in helping the city identify what problems we had. Because at the time we were having things that we thought were related, but we weren't really sure what we were seeing. We knew something wasn't right, but we just needed to kind of understand it. So we went to the GGIA, Georgia Gang Investigators Association. They started putting on classes, and we would just soak up anything we could at the time. Partnered with local agencies that were kind of already a little bit a step ahead of us. Coweta County, Ryan Foles, who's a prosecutor now he's a chief investigator for the Coweta Judicial Circuit. He was instrumental in helping us kind of move forward. Ray Ham, who's now with Department of Juvenile Justice, he was with LaGrange at the time. Really good gang investigators. So we kind of just began to see how they were doing things, how they're identifying. But one of the big things is documentation, is being able to document what you're seeing and sharing it. So that was a big learning curve for us at the time.
Well, the documentation, does that include an individual's name and their association, alleged association? Is that...
Yes, along with identifiers. So we have a system, and I know we'll get into talking about that, but we have a system where we really build a profile, and that's based on a lot of different things. And it really starts with when you start to see association with criminal activity. They become associated. You see their names start coming up in these shootings and the drug sales.
So it's not going to be like the first thing you put in there. This is a gang member. I mean, you're building up that profile and then find that out later, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's criteria that meets that, and it varies. Sometimes they're not necessarily gang members. They can be listed as an associate. If you have 5 or 6 documented gang members, And documented means that we've confirmed in some form or fashion, whether they're validated through the Georgia Department of Corrections, meaning that when they went into prison and they came out, they have a validation sheet that they've done. There's a security threat group that just identifies gangs in the prison. So when they come out, we make sure to enter that. But if you see a person and you don't really know what their level or what their affiliation is, but they're being seen with this group, or their name keeps popping up in these crimes, we list them as an associate, just to help know where they are, who they're operating with, maybe lead to prosecution of crimes later on.
Maybe talking to you guys 4 or 5 years ago, I remember you said wannabe gang members are a bigger concern than actual gang members. Does it feel like that's still true? Or?
Well, I think the term wannabe I think that is and I think we've talked about it before. We just don't use it because if you want to be, they will be. And I think sometimes we discount people by age. We've had kids young as 12, 13, 14 years old that maybe are identified. People say, don't worry about those. They're just wannabes. Well, then those wannabes are shooting up a house, or breaking in a house, or you find them selling drugs, and they're not wannabes. They are. They're emulating what they see. They're kind of following the crowd they're running with.
We'll talk about documentation a lot with Amanda here in just a second, but to document somebody as being in a gang, do they have to be in a gang that has a name, or just any kind of group that you think that they're carrying on those kind of activities?
Most of them do name themselves, and that's how we identify them, with some type of the color, the moniker, a call sign, a hand sign. They typically do that for you. Everyone we have documented now is associated with a gang or a subset, whether it be a nationally recognized gang where you hear the Bloods, the Crips, the Aryan Brotherhood, Ghostface, those types, or you'll hear local gangs, local subsets. They're called hybrid gangs. A lot of times they're community-based. They may not necessarily be directly affiliated with the Bloods or Crips. They typically will have some sort of national allegiance, but they really fall back to where they're from. And we've talked about it before with the YGGs, the YSN, and that's where your local documentation and local intelligence gathering comes in.
How many local gangs do we have? Gangs that are based here, that are living in our, maybe don't come here for visit their friends at the university or something like that. Gangs that are growing out of Carrollton.
Our intelligence files, and a lot of this is thanks to Amanda Moore, we have 12 documented gangs and 35 subsets. So your subsets may mean, all right, this is a Blood. They are affiliated with the Bloods, but their subset is they may be, like I said, YGG, YSN, or whatever they're going by. You can have Pueblo Bishops all the way down to different things like that are different subsets in the Bloods.
Chad Taylor and Amanda Moore, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program, as we talk about gang enforcement here in Carrollton and Carroll County. Before we do take our break, let me ask just one question. I promise you we're going to make Amanda talk the whole next segment. But as far as scoping out any gang activity locally, how much do you guys count on social media? How much do you go to YouTube to check those kind of things out?
A lot.
Because you see it out there. I mean,
yes,
you wonder if is it just fearless in putting that out there, or
I think it is, and it is also a tool we use to gather information. Where events are happening. Of course, social media is a big part of our life. That's how people communicate these days. That's how people communicate. They're watching your show right now on Facebook Live and different social media platforms, and really with Snapchat and things like that, you're taking texts are going away because it's a little bit easier way to you can send a snap and it just disappears later on, but there are ways to retrieve those as well. All
right, we're going to take our first break and we'll come back and talk about the documentation, how that's grown over the last several years. Time right now is 8:40, about 20 minutes before 9 o'clock on this Wednesday. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy, here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
As a graduate of Oak Mountain Academy, I found that my experience on the mountain prepared me beyond all expectations. As a junior at Auburn University, I approached my studies with great confidence thanks to what I learned at OMA. When I think back on my time on the mountain, I think of my teachers. Their genuine love and concern for me as a student was always evident, and now, as an adult, I still foster those relationships. I'm Carly Robinson, an Oak Mountain Academy alum. Visit oakmountain.us to see how you can offer your child an amazing opportunity to be a warrior.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong. That's tanner.org. #WeAreTannerStrong.
8:41. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I'm your host this morning, Colin Worthington. You can also check us out on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. Joel Brock behind the cameras this morning, and Steve Graddick punching the buttons in the studio. If you have any questions or comments for my guests this morning, please feel free to post them up on the News Talk 1330 Facebook page, and I'll pass those along. We're talking about gang enforcement in West Georgia, Carroll County, and the city of Carrollton. And Amanda Moore, she's Corporal Amanda Moore, and she's part of the ACE group. She's also SRO, Carrollton City Schools. And this year, recently, like in the last month, she was recognized as the GGIA Investigator of the Year, which is pretty impressive. We're thinking about the entire state. How did that come about? Actually, you know what? We'll talk about what that is, but what is your role as a documenter? What does that entail on a daily basis?
The biggest thing for me is getting information from other resources. I rely on our patrol officers, other school resource officers, other investigators, not just with the city PD, but also other police departments that send me the information that we need that might help us with a case later. Like Chad said, it's not necessarily something that we would use right now, but it's stuff that we can collect and maybe use for later dates. They'll send me social media. They'll send me pictures that they've gathered off security cameras at schools or businesses when they're investigating cases, and it all just goes into the system that we have that we can then access later.
How much, when you do access it, how long will something sit in there before you typically need to access it, do you think? I mean, do you have files that have been developed for a couple of years and maybe haven't had the need for them or been able to use them?
Yeah, I kind of took over doing a lot of it 2 years ago, and there's still stuff in there from before I was in there that we haven't necessarily used. We can add on to it as much as we want, but we haven't necessarily used all of it.
If it was all paperwork, what would that look like?
A lot.
Yeah. GGIA Investigator of the Year. What's the GGIA, first of all?
Georgia Gang Association for the state of Georgia. It's kind of the main organization that anybody that's dealing with gangs kind of is a part of and relies on for information sharing and classes and teaching us how to prosecute these cases when time comes.
And I imagine that your coworkers did put you up for that, and
they
had
did.
To send a bunch of information.
A little surprised.
Yeah, she's being humble in it, but she was actually nominated by more people than they have ever had in the for the award. She has, she's kind of downplaying her role here, but she's increased gang profiles by about 30% in her last 2 years. She has implemented an early intervention program, essentially where she identifies at-risk youth really early on. Her role in the school has played a huge role in that. She really, really plugs in to those roles. And that information is invaluable later on because not only is part of working gangs and the criminal enforcement end of it, it's also deterrence, education deterrence, and that's where officers like Corporal Moore, they really shine. They really do. All of our SROs, we got her, Officer Cardell, who's at the high school. I mean, they really do. They plug into these kids, and it's not always about, hey, let's get these guys locked up, let's get them put away. Sometimes it's about, hey, this is an at-risk youth, but this kid really has some potential because you see a lot of really, really smart kids that take the wrong path. And There have been a couple over the years that just slipped through the cracks and fell into the system early on that were really, really intelligent kids. But I think we've added a fourth SRO, correct, this year. And those roles are just invaluable to us. They really are because of early intervention.
Well, as far as the early intervention, what are some of the things that you do notice and decide that somebody is at risk?
The biggest thing is kind of their background. What do they have in their environment that they grew up with? Whether it's older siblings that were involved in gangs, or parents, or cousins, associates, like he was talking about earlier. They're just kind of hanging out with those people that we know are associated with gangs, and just kind of identifying them and pulling them off to the side, or hooking them up with a mentor, a teacher, or even one of us. There's been a few kids that I've kind of taken under my wing that I knew were kind of on that path. A lot of it is just who they're around, what their environment is as far as people.
Are you having conversations with their parents? I mean, and if you are, I mean, what can their response be? How much can you say? Can you actually say, I'm worried you're...
Sometimes there's conversations with parents. A lot of times it's just getting them away from everybody and just kind of talking to them about, why are you doing this, or what's your reasoning behind hanging out with this person or that person, and just having that conversation with them. A lot of those kids have never had anybody that's really pulled them off to the side and had that conversation with them.
What can you tell parents to look for, family members to look for as a potential sign? I mean, if they want to nip it in the bud themselves.
At Carrollton, we do the badge program, which is in 6th grade. It's a program where we kind of teach the kids, the old DARE program. We've customized it to the city schools and what we see in the city, and it's letting those kids and those parents know that if you're starting to see the kids not doing their schoolwork, if they're not coming home when you're telling them to, just little things that they're just kind of being defiant, and then looking at who they're hanging out with, paying attention to social media. I don't think parents really pay much attention to their kids' social media, and that's where I get a lot of my information is social media and what they're posting. My
son's blocked me on his Instagram account, so
yeah.
Same.
Yeah,
same. I feel your pain, Colin.
All right, time out. Say at 8:45. Let me take just a quick break from talking about gangs, because there was a story about a month ago that I know you played a big role in, and Ace did. There was a armed robbery at the Walgreens up here on South Park Street, and it was a pretty detailed story. Had a lot of information from that. And you guys did a lot of work, and ended up leading you to the potential that the suspect in this robbery was connected with more than 20 similar robberies from around the state. And I know we did the story on that, but it's really a detailed story. And I mean, you guys need you guys need to be recognized for your role in that. Tell us a little bit about that, what you know as far as the investigation.
Yeah, on July 5th of this year, we responded. Right at closing. It was 11 o'clock. Walgreens had just went from 24 hours down to a modified time for opening. A guy came in.
Aside when the first lady was leaving, right?
And none of this we realized till after the fact. We were able to pull some cameras from local businesses and see that he had actually been casing the place. He was up about 10 or 15 minutes before closing, watching the building. And what it looks like, he waits until they pull the curtain. There's a curtain that they close for the drive-thru at the pharmacy. And as he closes it, he comes down and waits for a lady to come to close the door. When he does, he forces his way in, takes everybody to the safe. They have a room. It's kind of an office, a safe room, where he has them take the money from the tills and put them in a bag. He then takes the 2 patrons and the 4 employees to the pharmacy and has the pharmacist open it's a time-delayed safe, and steals they took about $50,000 worth of narcotics. And then he leaves. And that's kind of the summary, but the investigation of it was really cool. It was technology-based. We were able to, we have flock system in the city of Carrollton. So essentially, when you're coming in and out of most major thoroughfares through the city, it captures a picture of a car, and a tag number. It doesn't give you the information from a tag number, but it does catch that information. So we didn't realize that there were, at the time, we were treating as its own robbery. but we got some information that there were others that were well north of us, basically running the 27 corridor. So we took the flock system on 27 and narrowed it down to a time frame. Well, we started out with about 3,000 cars. And going through some work, we pretty much took out local people because it covers a 30-day window, and narrowed it down to about 10 cars. We matched the owners to those 10 cars, and we had one suspect that we felt was probable. He met the physical description in the videos that was given. He was from Rome, and we began to open up our investigation on that. And so once we got that key piece, all the little pieces at the other 20, there ends up being 22 total, begin to make sense. A tag here, they found a tag at some others that were associated with a girlfriend. We began to do some phone dumps and tied phone numbers to these other robberies in the tower dumps, and were able to do historicals on him. We did a search warrant in Rome along with the FBI and recovered a lot of stuff taken from our store. Also the gun, the clothes he was wearing, the shoes, the truck that he was driving was in the driveway. Really good case, but it's going to lead to what we believe is going to happen now is it's going to be prosecuted federally because of the multi-jurisdictional lines, but he's right now he's a suspect in 22 pharmacy robberies and with a few Dollar Generals sprinkled in.
Was he a Walgreens employee or anything like that? I remember
No.
there was some question about that initially.
To be honest, it appears he spent most of his 20s in and out of prison.
I did see he did have a criminal history. All right, we're going to take our final break right now. It is 8:52. Come back with about 7 minutes on this morning's Community Voice program. We have Corporal Amanda Moore and Sergeant Chad Taylor, both with the ACE unit, Carrollton Police, part of the Carroll County ACE unit, and we'll finish up our conversation with them after this final break. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy, here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
For more than 70 years, you have turned to Tanner Health System for your healthcare needs. As our community moves forward, Tanner is here for you. Strong, safe, and close to home. Routine medical appointments, urgent elective surgeries, and imaging are back on the calendar at our hospitals and Tanner Medical Group practices. With the safety of our patients, staff, and community always our top priority. Learn more at tanner.org. Hashtag We Are Tanner Strong. That's tanner.org. Hashtag We Are Tanner Strong.
At Oak Mountain Academy, our daily schedule includes convocation, prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance. By doing so, we build a family-like community where all students grow and flourish and personal faith is encouraged. Through community service and a historical approach to biblical study, our students are taught the value of the warrior way, honesty, respect, and responsibility. Oak Mountain Academy, we are a family creating legacies. To learn more, visit oakmountain.us.
All right, it's 8:53. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program, News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. Wrapping up our program with Corporal Amanda Moore, Student Resource Officer, and GGI Investigator of the Year, and Sergeant Chad Taylor. Both of our guests this morning are with the ACE, Aggressive Criminal Enforcement Unit. It's a Carroll County partnership, UWG, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, and Carrollton Police. As we do wrap up the program, can we talk about your all's role, exactly what you guys do? I mean, it's a partnership with three different organizations, so that's impressive as well.
It is, and it's not just those agencies. Those are the agencies represented on ACE, but I mean, we work for every agency in the county. We'll do anything from, but our primary focus is in the city's gangs, narcotics, and violent crimes. We also do a lot of high-risk warrant service for several different agencies, but we have a lot of we've got a really good group, really strong investigators. On the city side, it's me, Corporal Kyle Jones, Corporal Ian Wright, Corporal Kelly Bennett. On the county side, it's Sergeant Shane Spradlin and Ryan Taylor and Justin Presnell. And then the UWG was for a long time Brandon White. He left us this week. He is now with the task force, but we will be getting a new officer for UWG in the near future. But we work the entire county. A lot of it is intelligence gathering. Because of things that Amanda does, we're able to share that information with other agencies. We also work the drugs into thing, and it kind of takes us all over the county. Along with, we do a lot of major crimes, anywhere from theft rings to you recently saw, I think you guys did the story on the four-wheelers where they recovered 20 some odd four-wheelers. Yeah, Shane Spradlin kind of headed that up on the county side. So that was we do a lot of things like that just because we're a large group. We can employ a lot of resources really quick, and those guys do a really good job. I think they represent the chiefs and the sheriffs well.
See, a lot of the big drug arrests here locally, I mean, I do see that you guys are usually associated with that somehow. The Drug Task Force, obviously, as well. I remember the Georgia governor's Drug Task Force with the helicopters over there checking for the pot plants. They called you guys up and said, "Hey, you guys take care of this for us."
They do. Yeah. So they call every year. They come in a couple times a year and they fly it. And essentially what they do is locate different grows, marijuana grows, indoor, outdoor grows, and we'll take those cases for prosecution on the local level.
We'll wrap up the program with this. As far as people in the community, I mean, if they're concerned about gang issues, I mean, how comfortable should they feel with calling the police and reporting activity? Is it necessary to report any and all activity you see?
I think that they play a huge role in us bringing things to our attention because we can't be everywhere. We're just a handful of people for 500 square miles. So I think that the community plays a huge role. Don't hesitate to call us at all.
Are there, as far as you think about the logos they draw and other signs throughout the communities, are there things to look out for as far as there? I know remember hearing about the shoes that you might see on power lines. Those might be signs for something.
What I would say is, so gang identifiers, that's probably a week-long class. But the best way I describe it is say when we teach classes and things, if it doesn't look right, it's probably not right. Take a picture of it, call us, send it to us. You can send it anonymously, because sometimes that is what sparks us knowing what a new gang is coming in. We may not have seen it before, but we'll figure it. We'll do our best to find an answer.
What's next? I think as far as we talk about the changes that have been made in the last 10 years, as far as being able to identify and document. What's the next big thing for investigators in our area? What's something that you guys need that you hope to be able to obtain soon enough that would help you in investigation?
So I think that we're going to continue to grow our intelligence. Those databases we're going to need more space, but also. I think that our flock systems and things like that are just huge factors. They're huge tools for solving crimes, and they have been for us. We've been really successful in the city, and I think you'll start to see us implement those more in private entities like the hospitals, the schools, and things like that.
Sergeant Chad Taylor and Corporal Amanda Moore, our guests on this morning's Community Voice program. If you missed any of it, we're going to post the entire program, the audio version, on the newstalk1330.com website. You can go back and listen to it from the beginning. And, of course, it's on the Newstalk 1330 WLBB Facebook page, so you can see all of our smiling mugs on there. And I know Sean, Chad's going to make this entire show his ringtone.
Exactly right.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you for coming out this morning.
Thank you, Colin.
And appreciate everybody tuning in to this morning's WLBB Community Voice program. I believe Josh will be back in this seat tomorrow. And for Friday's program, we'll be talking to representatives from RAFA. They're going to be doing the virtual Sound of Medicine this year, and we'll talk about that on Friday's program. I believe we've got a gentleman from the Douglas County Chamber of Commerce on tomorrow's program. So tune in for that at 8:30 here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.